Okay, I think we're live, Susan.
Sounds good.
we never know. We just hit that button and then all of a sudden we're live. So it's good to be back. This first time we're doing this in like over a year. And I know
Happy.
you said a lot of people wanted to hear from us and what was going on. So
Yeah, I had people randomly come up to me and be like, "I want to see the show, so this is for you because I promised you I would do it." So,
there you
um,
go. Our
yeah,
three friends.
and I was not going to have any reason not to do it today because we're here in Orlando, and at first I was like, "Oh, John, I can't make it. I'm busy that day." But you know what? You can make it. You make time, and so you have some awesome background from the Hard Rock over here. Um, and we were at a mortgage conference learning a lot, lots of great information, so can't wait to pass that on to you guys.
Yeah, so that's a big topic. What is going on? We're going to talk about that. Mortgage rates, what's going to happen this year? If we
We
only
don't
had
know.
a crystal ball, we'd all be billionaires. I tell people that all the time, but we can talk about mortgage rates. And I think we should also highlight what's going on in the general real estate market around the United States, because that's definitely something to talk about and consider. Because all those, even though real estate is local in nature, all those things going on nationwide definitely have some impact on our local market here in Babcock Ranch.
Absolutely. And it would be amazing if somehow we could spread the word to people, kind of in the north, but we'll get into that.
Well, yeah, there's still some really hot markets around the country. And I got some great data I can
Awesome.
show on that. And then I think we should also get into some stats on Babcock Ranch. That's always good. We'll talk about builder sales, resales. I think we should also touch on what in the world do people need to do today to sell their home, because listings are definitely not easy right now in the current market. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, but we can definitely, I think I've got a lot of good tips, and I'm sure you do as well, about how, possibly positioning homes and offering different incentives, right? So,
Absolutely.
so anybody who is watching, thank you for tuning in, and you can definitely drop questions below. We do have a private chat room going here. So I believe if you comment on either, if whether you're on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, if you comment on the post, I think we will get those questions here. So where do you want to kick off?
um, I want to know what's going on in Babcock Ranch. Like, where are we up to? What are our numbers, our sales?
So good question. So as of Friday last week, we have there have officially been 4,135 homes closed in Babcock Ranch.
Wow.
Right now, there's about as of Friday, there's about 400 more homes sold. So currently, yeah, right now, if you're looking at today, there's about 400 homes that are have been sold and in process in various different stages of construction. But builders are definitely there's definitely a lot of inventory on the ground. So you can go to pretty much any builder right now in town, and they have move-in ready inventory. And I think that's also going to be a big trend this year, is builders moving towards just building inventory, because that actually helps keep their costs down. If they
Hmm.
kind of, the more they move towards standardizing their product line, the faster they can build and the more they can keep their costs down. So I think even like the higher end builders in town, like the Pulte's and the William Ryans and Toll Brothers, that's kind of my prediction, is you're going to see less and less like semi-custom built homes in those sections. Although they're still going to offer that, don't get me wrong. You'll still be able to go to a lot of those higher end builders and still pick your lot and pick your model and do all your design. But I think the way that they're figuring out, obviously in this market, is you got to keep the prices down. So they kind of got to follow suit with that. And how do they do that? That's going to be through building more inventory.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because if you look at like the stats of which builders are selling right now and which aren't, well, it's the builders that traditionally put up the inventory are the ones that are selling. So Lennar's doing very well in Tucker's Cove and Webb's Reserve. D.R. Horton's doing well in Palmetto Landing, but like that all makes sense, right? They're the lowest price homes in town, and they also have good interest rate buy downs. And those builders, yeah, they keep offering. You can usually get, I think right now the interest rate buy downs are around 5.5% because mortgage rates did just go up. So that's what you're seeing with a lot of the builders. But yeah, maybe well as the rates go down, they're going to go. They'll get back to 5%. I mean, at one time, Lennar was doing. Just recently, they were down on some of their move-in ready homes down to like 4.875%. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those obviously, those aren't normal rates right now, but they do these, these buy downs, and they pay a lot of money for that, to be able to get people those permanent, those permanent numbers. Now, do you find that, on any house that they buy, or do you find that to be more on like, say, a quick move-in?
Oh, they only offer that on the quick move-in homes. So,
or the ones that they're trying to get rid of quickly, which is a quick move-in, but sometimes they, I know Pulte like specifically built spec homes, and then sometimes they have quick move-ins that like fall through or whatever, right?
Yeah, and then sometimes they just have inventory homes that wind up sitting, and then the price drops start happening. I mean, it's really crazy to think how where the prices were even with the new construction like a year ago, and now what some of these homes are selling for with the builders. I mean, I think what the public needs to understand though is the builders they're going to drop the prices as far as they need to be to like sell, because they are not going to sit on inventory, right? They've got so much more leverage than the homeowners do to move homes. And from what I've been reading too, like I don't think the builders necessarily have any plans to slow down, because they feel they can take advantage of this market better than the traditional home seller can, because they have more margin and more room to drop prices and that ability to buy down interest rates. So, the big companies like Pulte and Lennar and D.R. Horton, I mean, they're not going to be stopping trying to sell more and more homes.
So you don't see a slowdown at all of new people coming into Babcock, for example, as far as builders, I should say. You don't see a slowdown of builders or saying, oh, we're not going to build as fast or anything like that. They're still going strong.
Yeah, they're still going to go strong. And I mean, there is a slowdown in demand coming into Babcock today, but that's nationwide. And that's really just, the big things that are affecting the country right now are the home prices are still kind of high, and the interest rates are high. So it's it's that, very well, it's that home affordability issue is the main challenge right now.
And, it's just sometimes being in the mortgage industry for 30 years, I think mortgage and housing and real estate always, right? And, when I heard about the fires in California and all that, and I'm just like, oh my God, how much can insurance take? So it is a little scary to think what's going to happen. The hits. And it was interesting. I was actually on my way here, I was reading an article from, that Mark Cuban had posted about like what he feels is going to be the biggest struggle in Florida. And it wasn't interest rates, it was insurance. So
that's one thing we don't have to worry about here in Babcock per se.
Yeah, because we have
other areas.
So one of the best things, in case anybody's listening, we do have really good rates compared to other parts of Florida, because of our obviously good location and how high we are above sea level and so on and so forth. Yeah. But and also too, if someone is getting pre-approved outside of Babcock, I mean, those insurance quotes I'm seeing, I had somebody buying I want to say it was like a $300,000 house in Fort Myers, and their insurance was $12,000 a year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That was not flood. That was insurance. So,
but they have to be in that has to be in a flood zone, right?
No, that had nothing to do with flood. It was the age of the house.
Okay, well that certainly can factor in.
Yeah, yeah. And so so there was just a huge discrepancy. So if you do come to us to get pre-approved, we will always ask you for a quote, especially if you're outside of Babcock, for insurance, because as you can imagine, that's a $1,000 a month insurance payment is very large. It can affect your debt ratio very easily. So so we always take care to make sure we get those quotes. But that's another reason why Babcock's just, a great place to live these days.
Sure.
Yeah.
So here's we were talking about how I said builders aren't slowing down. So let me share our first data point here. So this is Reventure, which is this really great program I use that shows me all different types of housing data. But I don't know, can you see that?
Yep.
There we go. So this is building permits in Charlotte County. So this is going back all the way to 2022. So this is kind of where, I would say the market had already kind of peaked.
Yeah.
But I mean, even, looking back to last year and all through 2024, I mean,
Wow.
the building permits were staying pretty level here. So now there are a lot of other areas around Punta Gorda that are getting built out. I don't know how familiar you are with like the other side, but like that whole Burn Store area, there's a lot of new developments going up over in that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's that new Lennar / Toll Brothers Willow, and of course this also includes like Port Charlotte and those areas, and you've got Welland Park, and certain parts of Welland Park are up in Port Charlotte. It's also Welland Park's in Charlotte County and Sarasota County, different neighborhoods, but
Yes.
yeah, I think this also kind of gives you a picture though, like there's no plans to stop Babcock at all. So I think that's all these homeowners now who are thinking about selling in the next few years while we're in this like current state of the market where the interest rates are too high and that's suppressing demand. Like you gotta start future planning about this, because I don't see the market necessarily changing at all this year.
Yeah. No, it's a really difficult thing, right? There's a lot of uncertainty right now, with everything happening. So it's just, you really don't know where everything is going to go. All we can do is make the predictions based on the data that we have. And sometimes that data is flawed. And that's a part of what happens when predictions go wrong, is maybe the data was wrong. So,
Right.
um,
So what are you? So you're at a big mortgage conference this week. What are the mortgage gurus talking about, and what are they predicting this year?
yeah, so I am at a mortgage conference, and I had the pleasure of hearing Barry Habib speak this morning, and he's basically the biggest mortgage speaker in the industry, and has been very insightful over the years, offering, guessing where the rates are going to be and not being too far off. For 2024, he had predicted a range of interest rates, and it was missed by about a half a point, still not bad. But that was because there was a lot of information that came over from the job market that came in and then got revised later on in the year, and that made an enormous difference. With interest rates and how they were going to attack it. So, if you are listening to the experts, in the sense of the people that are talking Wall Street, we have about 1 in 5 jobs on Wall Street. Like if you look at the job market, for example, those are not real jobs that are being posted. So I think that the information is still incorrect. So for example, like if somebody was to post a job, like say a remote position. So if you're posting a remote position here in Florida, and you might say, well, you know what, let me try this other state. So you put out 6 or 7 posts, but there's only one candidate. So a lot of times it looks like the job market is very different than what it is. And so if you take adjustments for that, and you correct the overstating by the core for the PCE data, then you're basically looking at interest rates somewhere, and I'm not quoting these, but I'm quoting Barry, the interest rates being somewhere, maybe at the end, somewhere, high fives, low sixes. And we can tolerate, the market can tolerate fives, but the market can't tolerate sevens and eights. And we're not, being that high was not good. I am happy to say that today, actually, because I just checked the 10-year bond market real quick, we should be having the lowest rate a day for rates this year today. And so that is actually obviously positive news. It's not to say that that's an indicator of anything, but you do have days where rates are up and down. And so I do have some advice on that if you're looking to decide on whether or not you should go ahead and, buy a house now or wait, because of the low supply of houses that still exists. There's many people that are being very hesitant about, buying a house naturally because of the rates, but they will come back out. The supply and demand is there. The demand is there and the supply is not, I should say. So I do believe that the interest rates, buying now is a good time, because if you wait till the rates go down and more people enter the market, it's going to drive the prices up. So
yeah, I do think about that all the time. I feel like we have a lot of inventory to burn off, so I kind of think when the mortgage rates start coming down, especially when they get close to 5, I think that's when prices are going to kind of start leveling out, because hopefully at that point in time, a lot of that excess inventory gets burned up and bought out. So I think we do have too much inventory. That's another issue, and that's another driver.
Specific to Babcock, though.
Well, that's everywhere in Southwest Florida for sure. You do have pockets around the country where, inventory is very low still. But yeah, Southwest Florida, we have way too much inventory. I can actually bring up the Reventure app here. Just give me a sec. I've had recently a bunch of clients sell up in the Northeast. Some of the suburbs of big cities, Boston, New York City. I know, like North New Jersey, outside of Boston right now, like there is so little inventory that people are still getting crazy offers, and so like those people are in a really good position to like sell and move somewhere like Florida or Texas, where there's way too much inventory and prices are down. But let me bring this up real quick. Inventory.
And I've had people do that, in the last few months, especially, just sell up north, buy down here. These pockets of opportunity where within our own country that you can have a hot and cold market, it's not that common. So, if you're someone that lives in a state where your prices are still high, and you would be able to indicate that by whether your house sells in 3 days or not, right? I've had clients tell me, I can't put my house on the market because it'll sell so fast, I won't have a place to live. Yeah. That's not the story you hear here, right? If you're in an area where you can say that about your house, you might want to think about selling and moving here where you can get a good deal on a home.
Yeah, I think for those people, I'd be looking at your local market. I still think there's time for people to do that. And I really do think it all comes down to those mortgage rates. As they come down more and more, like more people just keep entering the market. And I think Florida, though, let me show you this right now. So look at how much for sale inventory there is in Lee County, Charlotte County. I don't know if you can see those numbers. Can you?
I can, yeah. I can.
4,100 units for sale in Charlotte, Lee County, almost 12,800 units. Collier County. So Southwest Florida just overall, like way too much inventory. Even you go up to Sarasota. I mean, all the main air, all of Florida is like overbuilt right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, so this is another big driving force in prices going down. Just, if we drill down into like Charlotte County and you look like the monthly trends here, this is really interesting to see. Like, look at when we kind of bottomed out. I think the height of like the COVID bubble was around February, March of 22.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got 8 times the amount of inventory today in Charlotte
That's a
County.
lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's way too much. And that's why homeowners are having a hard time selling and why prices are dropping like they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, the other thing too is this doesn't like fully account for all the builder inventory too.
So the builder inventory is not in those numbers?
Correct. Because this is getting pulled really. So yeah, Reventure's pulling this from Realtor.com. So everything that's in the MLS should be included in these figures. But we know for a fact that the builders don't put every single thing that they have
Mm-hmm.
in the MLS, right?
Sure.
They're usually just putting up a model or a few models for a neighborhood to draw
Mm-hmm.
people in, but there's a lot of inventory for sale that's not included here. So yeah, when you go from like 500 homes sold, or about 500 homes available in the county to 8 times that amount, I don't think people get it. Like, and that's from going on listing appointments recently. A lot of people they're kind of, some people are just, they listen to my advice and are like, okay, I had no idea. And then there's other people who are just still convinced that the market's still like crazy like it was and that they're going to get top dollar for their house right away. And I'm sorry, it's just not the case. We're not in that market anymore.
And how do you feel like the best way to, what should a seller do? If someone's trying to sell their house in Babcock, what's, obviously price it right? I mean, that's always the rule of thumb, but what do you feel is most important?
I think you got to, number one, if you're going to sell your home, you need to remember, first and foremost, your top competition is the builder. So I'm seeing when you go, like, people who have houses in Trails Edge and Parkside and like Lake Babcock, those are the tougher homes to sell right now because you have to ask yourself, why would somebody come buy your house in Trails Edge versus just go to Tucker's Cove? Or why is somebody going to buy your house in Parkside or versus go to Northridge or Terra Walk or Verde? Right? Especially when they can get a similar sized home from that same builder for probably less money and with an interest rate incentive and closing cost incentives. So I think buyers, like, they're really looking at value right now. And value really, it comes from 2 things. It's either A, you did some really, really nice things to your home, and there's value in the upgrade you did, which unfortunately I don't see that in many homes in Babcock, but some people do. I mean, it all depends on people's financial situation, right? Or the value's in price, and you got to get the price low. And yeah, it's really hard right now because the builders keep dropping prices, and I think you got to be really focused on like what are the builders doing right now, and I mean their prices are still coming down. So yeah, pricing is paramount. And I'm really big on like the cadence when we list a home. If we're getting showings, then if we're getting a consistent amount of showings, then I think that's telling us, hey, the market thinks the price is pretty good. But if you're not getting offers, well, you're probably a little too high. But if you put your house up in this market and you're getting no showings, then you probably need to start with like probably a 5 to 10% price drop, and kind of keep going with that same price drop until you get people coming through the house. And ultimately, I think when you get the price right, that's when you're going to get offers. When you have the price right for for the market today, that's when the offers come in, and it's just a pill to swallow for people today because it's a lot lower than where they think it should be.
Right. But the real estate market it feels like it's picking up in Babcock as far as the resale goes, because I know I've been busy. And it seems like some of these people, like even like the higher end homes are selling, like because they're unique,
Yeah, the higher end homes are definitely selling.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because they are unique. And I mean, you look at like where we live on Waterside Trail, there's been some like really nice sales with some really high numbers, but though, you also got to factor in who are those buyers. They're mainly people coming in with cash, or they've got probably higher incomes and net worth to be able to afford those homes than that are over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not as affected as like the average person who needs mortgages and can only put whatever 10-20% down.
You would think.
Yeah, but those higher end homes, I do see them in like they're kind of in a league of their own. So you can't really look at those and compare your home to those, right?
Right.
I mean, I just had that listing on Bullhorn, and beautiful stock home, which stock's a rare home to have in Babcock, and it was on Lake Bullhorn, beautiful lake right there, and Lake Timber, highly desired area. And I mean, I got that under contract in 10 days. And yeah, why did that go under contract? Because of the higher end home and the uniqueness of it. And that home had a lot of nice upgrades too. Full solar system, whole house generator. They did a lot of upgrades to that house.
Yeah. Well, if you are a seller, so we have to price the market right? So obviously the house right, according to the market. And then if your house is desirable, or you can do little things to make it more desirable. And then, we can get creative with programs maybe.
I've talked about this with clients. I really feel like if you get stuck, if you get someone who's interested in your house and you can't make a deal happen, then you should get creative with like giving them incentives, maybe money that they can use to buy down the rate. What I have found is like marketing that stuff just doesn't work. Even if we have a listing and we come out right out the get-go and say, hey, we're going to give you $25,000 to buy down the rate, to match a builder, like, for example, Meritage. Meritage right now, they're giving $25,000 to any buyer to do, and they can use that money however they choose. I've tried marketing that on listings before, and it just really, you have to get the price right on listings. Like, that's like the number one thing. And then if you need to use some creative financing to like secure a deal, I think that's when you bring something like that into play as a seller. Now, as a buyer, though, I would only be making offers with like, buy downs, rate buy downs, or, a lot of closing cost incentives. I mean, I'd be utilizing that to make the deal sweeter for you. And that's where I think there's a lot of good opportunities for buyers also with the resales in town, because there's a lot of people that need to sell and they're willing to do those things to get out of their homes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of people do need to get out of their homes, move for whatever reason out of state, or wherever they're going, moving up in their lives. But I have seen, I've seen a really a big change when it comes to oh gosh, what am I trying to say? I've seen a big change when it comes to people trying to get approved and what types of loans that they're trying to get. And so we're starting to get actually more investors in here too. Have you noticed that at all?
Not so much, honestly. I think buying in here as pure investment is really tough because you you missed a huge runway of appreciation that happened during the COVID bubble.
Yeah.
So if you buy as a pure investment in here, I mean, you got to be very careful and do your due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the rental market's taking a big hit too, and it's same as the sale side. There's too much inventory for rentals, and that's dropping rental prices and making it very competitive. And you've got places like the Flatwoods where if you have really good credit, you can get into one of those homes in the Flatwoods for a $250 deposit. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what homeowners need. Homeowners want a full month's rent for a security deposit.
Yeah. Well, usually, yeah, they'll take security first, last security if they can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of homeowners want, you said, yeah, they want first, last, and security deposit. Well, how can you compete with that when you can go, sign up for first and a $250 security deposit in the Flatwoods like that?
Yeah. I think a lot of the people that are doing investment that I'm seeing is more people that are retiring from up north. They're buying investment, so to speak, and eventually in 3 to 5 years, their plan is to retire. So,
and then,
yes.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's doable. I think you just gotta be very conservative with the numbers, and
mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but I've heard Kitson plans to build like over 3,000 apartment units over the life of Babcock Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so there's always going to be a competition in the rental market with all these apartments coming, and there's of course lots of homeowners who bought in here as investments. So I would just say do your due diligence and ask people on the ground who know like real-time numbers, rather than I don't think builder reps know these numbers. I see people go to the builder reps all the time and ask them numbers, and then next thing you know, they're trying to rent their things out and they're not getting anything close. So I think I would, I'm happy to give people rental rates and what I'm seeing in the market. Because I don't like to get in. I mean, I work with investors, but I go with a very conservative approach, and I'm telling them like, here's the bottom. If you can't stomach this, renting this for like as low as this amount, then don't do this.
Yeah.
If you can stomach this low of a price, great. And hey, if we can get a little more, I mean, hey, even awesome. Little cherry on the cake, right? But
yeah, for sure. For sure. I usually give lower numbers too, like when I'm talking to people, and you want to give them realistic expectations. And a lot of times their ideas are a little bit higher than what they are now. But there's some really, really great programs out there that I think first-time home buyers might be, a good avenue for Babcock, because we're back into those numbers where we're below limits in certain, mortgage limits. And that'll allow people to buy houses with no money down. Some really great programs. I have a crazy, literally solar program I just learned about yesterday. And I'm getting the details, so I can't reveal it all to you. But basically, you finance the solar at the time of the purchase, and they give you $13,000 for your down payment that you don't ever pay back. It's money earned. It's not a grant. And there's so much to it. So we will be diving more into that and getting the details on how to pass that along to people. But I think that could be a perfect. Now, you can't do that product. I don't think you can do that on new construction. Actually, I apologize. I think you can do it on new construction. And here's the cool thing. If there is a program that I have, for example, like this one that I'm talking about, where you can finance the solar in, and they're giving you $13,000. And let's say the builder can't do that mortgage program. So if it's, one of the builders here, oftentimes we will reach out to the sales managers. We'll talk to them about extending that credit to you. So, for example, if there's a program that we can do that maybe Meritage or DR Horton, they can't do, or one of the other builders, they do extend that credit a lot of the time. So make sure you talk to us. We'll talk about the program, and we'll try to get you that credit.
Yeah, and I think all those good programs you have, I think people should be exploring resales, because a lot of the resales, another thing to consider are in like the OG neighborhoods, if you will, where the
Mhm.
HOA fees are lower. So, a lot of those first time home buyers, I think you're coming in here now, you should really focus too on some of those resales, because we could go in, make a really good offer where we get a lot of incentives from the sellers, and also then couple that with some of these awesome programs you have, and we could definitely get their rates down, and give them some other good incentives as well.
Yes, I do feel that sellers a lot of times too, like if the house has been on the market, sorry about that light, guys. If the house has been on the market for a while, they're probably more willing to work with you on these things. So definitely talk
Yep.
to us.
No,
Um,
there's a lot of people who need to sell. Most of the people who are selling right now, they have a really good reason to sell. They're not just selling to sell.
yeah.
But I mean, even I know a lot of our clients, like they had to move for jobs and stuff, and yeah, they want their houses sold, so they
Hmm.
are definitely more willing to hear offers with them throwing in incentives if it means getting the deal done. And we've even got some people now that are even in like short sale territory. I don't know if you noticed that, but that's from that crazy COVID bubble where prices got so high. A lot of people now, they're underwater. They're trying to sell, and what they can sell their house for is way less than what they owe on their mortgage. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more short sales, which I think those are good opportunities as well for like first time home buyers.
Yes.
Those deals can take a little longer to do, but when you get short sales, those people are in a bad place. And I mean, hey, it is what it is.
And short sale, for anybody that doesn't know, it's just basically when you owe more than what your house is worth. So if you're trying to sell your house, or your house only sells for 500 and you owe 536 or something, you reach out to your lender and you try to negotiate to see if they'll take less on that payoff, and that's considered a short sale, and that is not good for your credit, just so you know.
No.
But those are the types of things that, like you said, it's I'm not saying it's happening a lot, for sure it's not happening a lot, but it's happening a little bit, and it wasn't happening before, and that's because of the values dropping. I think that one of the things that could possibly save this market is if we do have those 4 rate drops that is predicted by some of the mortgage experts. And if we get down there and people can refinance these mortgages and make them more affordable, I do feel that that could be something that could help save some of these people. Because right now they're trapped, right? Because they can't refinance because the value, really isn't there. And you know what, John? I'm just going to throw this out there. That's one of the other reasons why, when somebody comes to me and they're trying to check whether they should do a conventional loan and an FHA loan, I don't know if the people that you get advice from think this far, but I always think about the future, and I'm unsure what the values are going to be. So sometimes when you do an FHA loan instead of a conventional loan, you don't need an appraisal to refinance. So if the values drop, most likely the rates are going to drop because we're going to try to stimulate the economy. If that happens and the rates go down, FHA allows you to refinance without getting an appraisal. That's huge, because the last thing you want is for rates to go down and now you can't refinance. Now, understand, not everyone can get an FHA loan. Not everybody wants an FHA loan. But if you can, and it's something that I think that would be good for you, we would certainly bring it up.
Awesome.
Yeah. So any other tips on how people can sell their house other than besides the 3 we talked about, last one being the creative financing?
Yeah. I think a big thing right now too is the staging and the presentation of the home. Like your house has to be perfect. It just does, because the buyers are so picky. Buyers are in full control right now. It's a total buyer's market with too much inventory, and the buyers that are out and can purchase right now, like, I mean, the sky's the limit in a sense, because they have so many options, and they've got like all the builders competing for them, and you're also competing against all the other homeowners too. So One thing I keep seeing though, I'm going in, I'm touring resale buyers, and um, you know, I go into some of these houses and they just like do not show well. There's scuff marks. The house needs paint touch up. It needs caulk. Baseboards are all chewed up from dogs, stuff like that, like crappy carpet, like all these things right now. All they're going to do is devalue your home even further. And I think you got to stick to the basics here. Like your house, it may not need a whole fresh coat of paint before you put it on the market, but you definitely need to do touch up paint. You shouldn't have like holes in the walls from nails and stuff like that. I mean, all these things matter. You
Or
really,
really like crazy bright colors, right? Something that's might be your unique
oh,
taste. Like you may
that's
have
the,
to.
yeah, that's the other thing. I see some of these houses, they've got 5, 6, 7 different paint colors in the home. That does not help you sell your home. Yeah, that might have been your personal taste, and that's okay. But if when in doubt, just paint the whole house white. There's nothing wrong with your whole house being completely white and having a fresh coat of white paint on it. That looks better. That looks 1,000 times better than every different room being a different color.
It's funny because our house is white, and painting it is on my list this year. And Bill's
Yeah.
like, "Let me guess, you're going to paint it white." I'm like, "It's going to be a beautiful shade of white." Yes.
I mean, that's what's in like off whites, shades of whites, light tan, stuff like that. Those natural like earthen colors, and I think you got to look at design trends. I mean, your house should probably have 3 to 4 main colors throughout the whole house, and that's it, right? Like when you look at designers, they stick to about 3 colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would, and if you're unsure, I mean, there's good painters that know design, or just look that stuff up on like Pinterest and design trends. And
Oh, there's
again, if you're,
fabulous people that can advise you in the
yeah,
neighborhood.
and if you're unsure, just paint the whole house white, and that's it. The other things I'm seeing devaluing stuff right now, unfortunately, is like not having impact glass. This is something I keep running into over and over and over again. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people built during times when there wasn't even impact glass available.
Hmm.
And I think it's a bigger challenge, especially if you have like a 2-story home. I mean, I just lost a sale. Literally, the one reason on this 2-story home I have was because the house didn't have impact glass, which was like, it sucked. It sucked for me. It sucked for my clients, but
Yeah.
that's another thing where that's a big nut to cover to just go replace your whole house with impact glass. It may be worth, if you have a second story, what I'm thinking is putting up, maybe just doing the second level in impact glass, or even if you can put in like accordion shutters, that may be a much cheaper alternative. So it's like easier to protect the home. But I think the real challenge is every builder now is offering impact glass standard. Like, when I bought my house, I had to upgrade to impact glass, right?
Hmm.
And before I bought this home, I mean, they just weren't even offering impact glass, or it was an upgrade.
And that happened after Ian. Like right after Ian, the builders were just that was what they were doing. That was their
Yeah.
promotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess impact glass, they all found new vendors, and now it's standard. No matter what new construction home you buy in Babcock today, it's coming with impact glass. So
Wow.
think about that if you're selling your home. Is someone really going to want to put up those shutters? Like a lot of people, it's really a mindset thing. We know it's not a big deal at the end of the day, right? But
Yeah.
you get a lot of people moving here, and Babcock's still a big relocation market. And I mean, this was me when I moved here from the Northeast. I never experienced hurricanes, so like the
Sure.
thought of hurricanes were scary as hell
Hmm.
before, until I actually sat in my house and watched Ian blow over Babcock. Like then I was like, oh, this isn't the biggest deal. We don't have to deal with the water surge out here, which that's the scariest thing in a hurricane, is the surge, right?
Right. And we're lucky that, we're what are we, 32 feet?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just, I could see how that would be important, especially if the builders, they're offering it. That's very hard to compete with.
Yeah. So, I mean, and yeah, I don't know what the answer is for people who have non-impact glass. I mean, it's just unfortunately it devalues the home right now. It is what it is.
Mm.
People are going to prefer that. So the only way to really counter that is by like with better pricing on your home when you sell it. The other big thing I see is like, people need to realize like, especially with like a Lennar house, Lennar has sold over 60% of the houses in Babcock. So when you look at Trails Edge, how many homes were in Trails Edge? So close to 900. I think 860 homes are in Trails Edge,
Oh,
something
that's
like that.
incredible.
So just consider every single home in Trails Edge has the same exact granite, the same exact kitchens, the same exact bathrooms. So I think
Hmm.
one way like people living in Trails Edge can really like separate themselves is just literally just swapping out your kitchen. Like rip out that granite, put in like some nice quartz, maybe get rid of that 50/50 bowl. Just doing little things like that, I think, can make a big
Are you
difference.
noticing a difference between like white and brown cabinets? Something as basic as
Oh
that?
yeah, that's the other thing. There's a lot of people that bought those brown cabinets, which I think brown is just out in Florida. It's
Hmm.
just people right now, and you can see it in the builders. The builders spend, millions on understanding design trends, right? None of the builders put brown cabinets in the houses anymore. It's all white, light gray, um, you know, different. The cream color is like pretty popular. I'm seeing
Hmm.
now in some of the higher ender builds. So yeah, those brown cabinets. If you have those in Trails Edge, like I would get a painter and I would paint that white, or
And you
maybe
can paint over cabinets?
yeah, those cabinets in Trails Edge, you can paint over them, but you need a professional who can do that. You probably need like an oil based paint,
Yeah.
which I mean you need to get out of the house because your house is going to stink for like 2-3 days.
Hmm.
But that oil-based paint is very strong, and that's going to adhere well. And I think they may also have to come in and like prime it. So it is somewhat of a job, but I think those brown cabinets to value. And then there's those people who have those veneers. Have you seen those veneer bathrooms in Trails Edge? The veneer
No,
countertops.
no. Veneer
So
counters? I thought veneer was like,
that white veneer countertop. So at one point in
okay.
time, um, upgrading to granite in the bathrooms, it was an upgrade to go to granite in the bathrooms. And if
Hmm.
you didn't want that upgrade at the time, they gave you a white veneer countertop.
Oh my goodness.
And it just looks so damn cheap. And
But you
there's a
know what?
lot of people who have those in Trails Edge.
You could get a good sink and swipe that out pretty easily, the countertop or even the entire sink. Because I'm just saying that just because I personally was looking to swap out the one in my bathroom. It's just one of those pedestal ones. Um,
Oh yeah. Well, the pedestal ones are all in all those half bathrooms and stuff and
mhm.
pool bathrooms. But yeah, if I was still living in Trails Edge, like that would be my main focus. I would do over the kitchen. Um, I would put in nice quartz. I would get rid of those 50/50 bowls because everybody hates them too.
Mhm.
Everybody's moving to like full stainless steel bowls or those like composite.
And those
Um,
are big changes, but I think they make a big impact just to set
they
you
do.
apart. Yeah.
Well, there was one sale I had over here in Lake Babcock,
Mhm.
and it was a Sylvester floor plan, a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,000 square feet. It had the standard Lennar pool package with the spa. And I remember at the time, I sold that property for like 585, but about 15 of it was like for furniture. And at the time, it was like a record resale
Oh
for
wow.
that model. And what was even more shocking was then like a year later, that house sold for even more money. And that was after like the market dropped significantly after I had sold it. And I was like looking at that house and I said, what in the world made somebody buy this house for like that price after, pay more a year later when the market dropped a lot? And it really came down to like they redid the kitchen and the kitchen looked phenomenal with the quartz that they bought, and they just staged the home perfectly. And I mean, those
Yeah.
like that one thing though helped add so much value to that house. So yeah,
Yeah.
if I was like living in Trail's Edge, and if you're going to be in there long term, like 5+ years, I would do those bathrooms, kitchens, and if you have the money, even the flooring. I mean, those are the big things that add value to houses: flooring, kitchens, bathrooms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are some really great tips. And with the resale, a couple things that I think why people do buy resale, versus new build, or could sell a house would be maybe your backyard. Like, do you have just a really great spot? That's sometimes really hard to find that really good lot. And
Yeah,
on a resale, you can actually stand there and feel it. And I mean, of course, on a quick move in, you can too. So I say that with that, but versus building from scratch, and you can go and see what your dirt's going to look like and what you imagine XYZ to be, but it's not the same. So if you are selling your home and you have, a fenced in yard and, or something special, even drive by, curb appeal, all those things, I think they can really add up, and you should focus on that maybe in the pictures of selling your home, the sunsets that it's things that people don't think about, like your particular house may have a great sunset. Like the house I used to own had the best sunsets. The one I own now, I see the sunset off like the side. So if that was very important to me, I would want to look at that. So it's important to look at all the little nuances of a house and things that you don't think about. And the nice thing too about a house that is in an established neighborhood too is that you can kind of drive by and see the neighborhood and see the noises, hear what's going on in the neighborhood.
yeah,
The other thing too, John, I don't know if you run into this, but um, the houses that are more unique, like the Washingtonias, maybe even the Majesticas, they seem to be, and I wouldn't say Majestica's really unique, but um, compared to Tucker's Cove, where they could build, I think some people just don't want all the amenities that go with it. So Trails
oh
Edge
yeah,
has that, that uniqueness of just the house, but you can't be paying $100,000 more for resale, and that's not the market now. But at one point, it was where it was that much more. It's
well,
not like that now. It's a lot closer. The prices have come down quite a bit, and there's a lot of good deals out there.
yeah. I
But it's
think
just
there are a few. Yeah, there's a few homes where I think you can still sell like equal to the builder, and I think they
Mhm.
are like if you're referring to Lennar specifically, like yeah, I still see like Majesticas and Washingtonias selling to comparable prices in Tuckers, but um, I mean the
But
rest of them, like I mean Sylvester's right now. I mean the last
oh,
few
sure.
Sylvesters sold under 400,000, but a brand new Sylvester in Tuckers is like 430 to 450 right now, depending on your lot.
Hmm.
So, but you also think too, there's tons of Sylvesters. I mean, my goodness, that whole Trail's Edge, there's got to be hundreds of Sylvester floor plans, and those smaller floor plans and the villas are taking. I mean, those are the ones taking a bigger drop in value. I think the more amount of like those floor plans that there are, the
Hmm.
the more the
Right.
prices are coming down, if that makes sense. But
Sure.
even those big ones, I mean, I think the top Majestica sale price for a resale was around like 740 in Trails Edge. I
Hmm.
mean, you can buy a Majestica brand new in Tucker's right now with the pool for 650, and I don't see, the last Majestica with the pool just sold in Trails Edge for like 585.
Okay, hang on one second. Did you say a Majestica with a pool in Tucker's Cove will be six what?
Right now, it's about like 650
So
with the full
650.
package. Yeah.
All right. So isn't resale cheaper then?
Yep, the resales are cheaper.
Okay.
I think if you have a really nice Majestica, you could probably get something around 650 right now in today's market. But I don't know. I see. I mean, there was a Majestica no pool that just when pending. I think it was at 570, and then I know there's a few Majesticas on the market right now. There's like 2 or 3 that are just sitting. So yeah, it's tough. Again, you're competing against Lennar. So like, what's in that house that's going to make people want to buy it? But yeah, you're right though too. Some people don't want to deal with Tuckers. I mean, the size of that neighborhood and the HOA fees are pretty high. So yeah, if you don't want fees, but you want a big house, I mean, I'd be looking at those bigger homes in Trails Edge.
And the other thing, I've had people really be big about this one, and that's the school, the proximity to the school.
Sure.
And also the proximity to getting out. So a lot of the new builds, not all of them, but a lot of them are further away. So once you get into Babcock, you're driving a while to get home. And if you're driving to Babcock and that already takes you 45 minutes, do you want to add another 15 minutes? And so for the people that want to be right there, right when you come in, Trails Edge, Parkside, those are good neighborhoods for quick access to the school.
Yeah, it's I actually have timed it even from where we live. It takes me, because I just bought a condo in Webb's to play golf mainly, but
congratulations.
It cost me, thank you. It takes me 8 minutes to drive back to Webb's to my condo. And I'm like, man, it's like right over there. I'm looking out my window and I can see National, and I know it's right behind like National, but yeah, it's crazy. It's 8 minutes. And I think, yeah, as Tucker gets developed, it's going to be, if you live at the back end of Tucker's, I mean, yeah, it's going to be like 10 minutes to get out of Tucker's and like another 10, 12 minutes probably just to get to 31. It's going to be like 20 plus minutes eventually.
Right. And that's a consideration. If you work from home and you don't care, that's great. But if you're trying to minimize your travel time, consider a resale if it's that much.
Yeah, that's a great point.
All the time, yeah. Especially if you're going in and out a lot, right? Like you travel 2 or 3 times a week, it doesn't matter. But for those that work in Fort Myers on a daily basis.
So we just got a great question from, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Kenia, Kenya maybe, I don't know, but sorry if I butchered your name there, but she's asking, as someone who's looking to buy property in Babcock Ranch, what's the best advice to give a first-time home buyer? Is it worth buying with the current interest rates? Should we wait?
Yeah. So, it's the cost of waiting versus the cost of home ownership now. We obviously, crystal ball, we don't know if it's going to go up or down or rates going up or down. We don't all 100% know. But in theory, okay, so think of it this way. When everyone was buying a house and they were overbidding for houses and the interest rates were low, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars more than where we are now, right? So like that same Majestica at 575 would maybe have sold over $100,000 higher than that. So you're definitely getting a better deal on the price of the house, and interest rates are temporary, right? I mean, they're 30-year fixed, a lot of them, but I mean, they're temporary in the sense that most people will refinance or do something within 3 to 5 years, every 3 to 5 years. And so therefore, waiting until rates come down, I wouldn't think that would be the best plan. Now, every situation is completely different and unique. So I really do think that if I could tell a first-time home buyer anything, it's to please call me so we can come up with a great mortgage plan for you and figure out when the right time for you would be. But a general overall question, I don't see the need to wait. I think the prices are good now. I think the interest rates, although they're not great, they're not the worst they've been. They're starting to come back down a little bit. You can always refinance that rate within 6 months. Maybe we can get a great buy down for you. So for example, if you were going to get a house today for $500,000, and we did with one of, say, your listings, John, somebody bought their interest rate down 2 points and now you get a great rate for a couple of years, and then you refinance in a couple of years and hopefully keep a similar payment. So I would look into it. That's my advice.
Yeah, and there's also, you got to factor building equity helps build wealth, and over time, there's a stat I read recently that I think the average homeowner, their net worth is the average homeowner in America, their net worth is something like $400,000, and the average renter in America, their net worth is like $15,000. So there's something to say to building equity and building wealth through home ownership, because you can always use that that equity you have in your home as leverage to buy more real estate and get into rental properties and stuff like that. Like, that's right now one of my big focuses is I want to pay my house off as soon as possible. And the second I do it, I'm probably going to refinance and like pull money out and start buying investment properties with it. So having that equity can go a long way to building your like long-term retirement plan as well.
So I think sometimes when you think, is this the right time to do something? Sometimes it's when everyone else is not doing it, right? So like when everyone else was bidding so much money for houses, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, right? And now, when you look at renting, right? Like, how much interest rate are you paying for rent? And also your rental situation. Are you living at home free with your parents, or are you paying a couple $1,000s a month? So that really would go into the determining factor of when to buy. But you also get tax write-offs, on your income taxes. If you're a first-time home buyer, you might not be aware of that. And also just generally in life, especially if you're a younger person, the earlier you start doing this and building your real estate portfolio can really bring you wealth later on. So.
Yeah. So we have one other question. Are any more golf courses going to be built? And I think the master plan of Babcock calls for 3 total golf courses. I don't think anything's been announced or planned right yet. Babcock National I think they're almost done with the amenities. Again, I'm looking over to National out my window. I think the clubhouse is almost done. Webb's, the exciting thing about Webb's right now is that they've already started on the amenities. So I think Lennar wisened up and is not going to have a repeat of Babcock National in Webb's. So I'm excited about those amenities already getting started and underway. So hopefully they'll be done in like 18 months or so.
That's very promising. And it's nice that they, change their ways in a sense and are building the amenities quicker now. And I think that's the case with Tucker's Cove too, no?
Yep. Yeah, I heard Tucker's, they already started the amenities there, although that's a much bigger amenity campus, so it's probably going to take longer than what they're doing in Webb's.
That place looks amazing. There's like a beach. It's amazing.
Amenities are going to be, insane. I think they're going to be awesome. But pros and cons to everything, right? I think the things that scare me about Tucker's is just the massive size of that neighborhood, 2,200 homes. So that kind of like freaks me out. That's like it's going to be a mini city within Babcock. I kind of wish Lennar I don't understand why Lennar, being the size that they are, couldn't come up with like different floor plans. Like that kind of annoyed me too about Webb's. It's all the same exact floor plans as National. Like, you're the second biggest home builder in America. You couldn't have come up with some different floor plans and some different ideas. They did bring, I think they brought 2 new house plans over to Webb's.
Yeah, the Sago, which is a
well, that's Tucker's, but yeah, they brought in the Sago, which is a smaller next gen home.
Yeah.
And they brought in the, I think it's called the Eureka, which is also the Rosewood model, same layout as the Rosewood model, which people bought as WCI homes in Lake Timber and Lake Babcock.
Okay.
But yeah, in National, they brought in the Lakeside floor plan, which now everybody is buying. This is very interesting to see the transition from National to Webb's. Because for a time there, people were getting really good prices in National, but now the prices in Webb's have come down significantly, and I'm starting to see now the resale prices in National are starting to drop a lot, especially on the condos more than the houses. But even the houses now, it's same thing. It's like, why am I going to come buy a National when I can buy a brand new home in Webb's for cheaper with incentives? And, all the homeowners think that having the amenities done is like a big value add. And honestly, I don't think it's as much as people think, because if you also got to look at the demographic of the buyers in Webb's. They're primarily a lot of second home buyers, right? If saving hundreds of $1,000s means waiting for like amenities for a year or two, like, you don't think they're going to do that?
Oh, yeah. Obviously, if the price is definitely different, I could see people doing that. I've had opposite situations where people have said, I'm retiring and I want to move down there, and I'm trying to decide between the two. And they're older, and as they get older, things get harder for them. And so
Yeah.
I felt like they should go use the amenities while they could, in their life,
Sure.
because they didn't have a lot of made a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And so for them, I felt like, go ahead and use these amenities, and then you can always sell and go to Webb's too, right? It's like it's not a permanent thing. But if it's a price difference, right? Because we didn't talk about price, that wasn't the question. Price difference, I think that could make a difference. Sure, why wouldn't somebody wait, especially if they're not, on a time crunch? So, so the people with Webb's, now, people have asked me this, and I think I gave them the right answer, but you can't use the other National Golf Club, right? You can,
No.
if you're in Webb's. Okay.
Now, if you live in Webb's, you're playing, and you go to book in National, you're playing as any other public person, so, and vice versa.
Very nice. And you've played both golf courses?
Yes, I'm playing Webb's on Saturday, and both courses are pretty comparable. They're both open link style, so National's like really nice because it's been growing the grass has been growing for 4 or 5 years now, so it's definitely in a much better condition than Webb's. Webb's, they opened, I think, a little prematurely, but they did it to help with sales this season, which is understandable. So the back 9 is definitely a lot more grown in, and the front 9 is where they're still like building all the roads. So it's kind of cool when you play the golf course. You're seeing like all the roads where they're going to be going, and all the home sites, and there's lots of big machinery out there. So if anyone's interested in buying in Webb's and wants to play the golf course first, I'm happy to take them out. Just reach out to me. We have one other question here from Gustavo asking, how long do you think it'll take for Tucker's to be fully built? And yes, he's saying, I heard the amenities have broken ground. Do you think it'll be done this year? So I guess let me address the amenities. They will definitely not be done this year. They have broken ground. I think my guess is those amenities are a 2 to 3 year project, just because it's such a huge project with all the things that they're putting in there, from the pirate ship restaurant to the lazy river to the, there's splash pads, those sport fields, cover pickleball courts. I think there's also a resort style pool in there. I mean, it's going to be phenomenal when it's done. So yeah, I'm guessing it's going to open up in phases, and probably I'm thinking by the end of 2027 it'll be done. And then in terms of how long will it take for Tucker's to be fully built, that's a great question. Tucker's has been open now for, I think sales started last summer, like summer of 2023, or like the latter half of 2023. So I believe they've been selling in there for around 18 months. Right now, let's see, project to date, they've sold about 192 homes in Tucker's Cove so far out of 2,265. So my guess is Tucker's is a 10+ year project, if not more. It all depends on home sales and how the sales go.
Was he asking when Tucker's Cove itself would be complete, or the amenity center?
Yeah. How long do you think it'll take for Tucker's to be fully built out?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it's a 10-year project easily. Wow. With that many homes in there.
So obviously, besides, Trails Ed, Parkside, Lake Timber, all these smaller areas. They've sold out of, is there anything else they've sold out of? Like William Ryan, can you still get one of those? Christopher Allen and all those guys. Is anybody sold out?
In phase two, no, nobody's sold out. Meritage Crescent Lakes is probably the furthest along. I think last I was talking to the guys over there, I think that neighborhood's about 50 to 60% sold out, something
Great.
like that. So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have an exact number in Crescent Lakes, but interestingly, I don't know if people know this. Those living in the Christopher Allen neighborhood, have you heard about this?
No.
Well, Christopher Allen has sold the remaining lots that they have to another builder called, oh my gosh, the name of the builder.
I would do a drum roll, but I don't have one.
Yeah. I think it's called, hold up, I have it right here. But yeah, so Christopher Allen sold, that neighborhood was supposed to be about 330 homes, and I think Christopher Allen sold around 60 homes, and they are now pulling out. So the builder is Dreamfinder Homes. Dreamfinders Homes. I've never heard of them, but apparently they bought the rest of Creekside Run. So they're going to be, I guess, transitioning in there and taking over and maybe putting up some model homes and starting to sell the remaining, I guess that's about 270 or so home sites in Creekside Run. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay.
So yeah, but other than that, I think there's really no other builder news. I think they got plenty of homes, home sites to be selling there in phase two and down in Terra Walk as well. So I
And
don't
Northridge is complete, right? That's all gone. No, really? They're still selling in Northridge?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the original phases, you've got Northridge, Waterview Landing still has home sites.
Okay.
Not that many. I think under like 15 left. You've also got that Town Walk, the townhomes right south of Founders Square. Their sales have not been good at all. They've sold about 20 townhomes. So I think it's just I think it's a different product, and it's, if you look at their prices, it's hard to, I guess my mind's like, why would I buy a townhome for 350 grand when I can just go buy a single family home for 350 grand from Meritage or from DR Horton? So
it's a hard sell. You got to really love that townhouse style.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what that builder does, because they've been open over a year now. And granted, no builder is selling the amount of homes they want to be selling. Right. I think they wanted last year in Babcock Ranch, they were hoping to sell like 1,250 homes. I think that was the quota across like all the builders. And I think they only wound up selling just shy of like 800. Wow. So they hit like, 60, 70% of like their goal. So.
And you can see why it's becoming a better time to buy, why it's becoming a buyer's market.
Well, yeah, that drop in demand is just dropping the prices. So I think you got to, for people thinking about buying, I think you just got to focus on those interest rates, right? Like when you see those interest rates start dropping and getting down into like those mid fives, I think that's when you got to that's like the last time to pull the trigger, because my suspicion is when the rates get to like 5.5, I think the builders are still going to buy down the rates, and they're going to be at like 4% and 3.5%, and I think that's when the builder sales are going to like pick up dramatically when they buy those rates down even further. So and then that's when that inventory is going to get cycled out, and that's when I think the prices are going to start leveling out, and then depending on demand and where the interest rates stay, prices then eventually, the prices aren't going to go up until we burn through all this inventory that we have.
In Babcock, for sure.
Yeah, and in this whole general Southwest Florida area. So
Yeah. Yep. No, I definitely understand that. I think that Babcock certainly has this great appeal, and it gets people from outside the area.
yes.
And I think I think we have hope for that to continue. And I do feel like our neighborhood is still growing. Obviously, where it's hard to get so many people to come to one specific area when you think about it, right?
Yeah,
We went from nothing to we're trying to build 20,000
right.
front doors.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's still so many great points to wanting to move out here, and I think overall, like, yeah, we're sales down a lot last year, yeah, but I mean, look, it's not. I don't think it's Babcock's fault. Like, there's anything wrong going out here. I think it's just
Right.
the general real estate market.
And I do believe that if you are in Florida, and this is my feeling. If you do live in Florida, especially in a different area or an area where it's prone to flood or an area that could flood, I don't know. I don't want to live anywhere else other than Babcock. That's the truth. That's where I feel comfortable. That's where I feel safe from hurricanes. And, I've heard others, and it's so funny because every time there's a hurricane, it's like there's an uptick in our rentals and there's an uptick in our sales a little bit. And that's because people are wanting to come here, but people need to be logical and come here when the hurricanes aren't happening, right? So
Yeah.
what's going to happen again. So if you are in Florida, this is a great place to come to, especially.
Yes, it's very comforting going through all these storms the last few years and not having to really worry about anything
Sure.
other than making sure to buy food before the grocery stores get crazy. So
Oh yeah, I had a huge house full. I had like 5 families with me,
yeah.
And it's just nice to know that you can do that for others.
Well, I think we're still going to get a lot of people. I mean, there's still so many people trying to sell and get away from the coastlines, and it's going to get unaffordable. I think the coastlines, they're just going to get pricier and pricier because the average person's not going to be able to afford the insurance and all that. And there's all these there's a lot of, like, especially if you look at like Cape Coral, and you go down like McGregor Boulevard in Fort Myers, like right along the river there. I mean, there are so many old houses in those areas that eventually it's just going to be like, you know what, cut the losses, sell it, and developers are going to come in and just start putting up like mansions, and it's going to be really rich people, I think, eventually just living in all those like super flood prone areas, because they're going to be affording it, and they're going to be the ones who buy up like the old houses that just people can't sell.
Right. And a lot of times, like some of these insurance companies, there's no price. They're just not going to do it. They're pulling out. So sometimes it's not a matter of even paying. It's a matter of, we're not going to insure you because you're a high risk area. And there's been so many people, even the second round of hurricanes, where people living on the beach, and I'm hearing they're not insured at all because can't get coverage or can't afford coverage. I mean, that if you can't insure your house and you're on a beach, that might be a sign to sell, because you don't want to risk losing your house. I mean, that's just very scary. So if you can't afford insurance, it might be time to move somewhere where you can.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just probably are in that position where they would be better off getting out of those areas and like taking a loss now versus further taking bigger losses even down the road. Because I mean, who knows? You never know what's going to happen, or when the next Hurricane Ian's going to happen. I mean, shit. After what we've been through in the last 3 years, we feel like it's going to happen every other year.
I know.
It's scary to think about, but at least we're out in Babcock and comfortable out here.
For sure.
All right. We got one more question, but we've been actually at this 80 minutes. Did you even realize how long we've been talking?
It's been a bit.
If people
could I was just thinking, this is like how you and I are when we're just hanging out.
I know. I was going to say, if people could just come over and hang out with us at night and drink a bottle of wine, this is all we do.
Yeah.
So Leah Chin's asking, are resale homes entertaining home to sell contingencies? And I think that some are and willing. I'm seeing it more and more now. Just I think it all depends. It depends on the person and like where they are in their home sale process. So I know some of my listings, we're talking about it, and we even have a few pending listings with home to sell contingencies on them. So it just, I think the answer is it all depends on the situation, right? I had that $1 million home I just got under contract. I mean, the buyers came in with a home to sell contingency, and my sellers were like, well, no, we've been on the market 10 days. We're not ready to do anything like that. And my buyers waived the contingency and they wanted the house. But I've got other houses that have been sitting for over a year now. And now they're like, now those sellers are saying, well, if this is what it's going to take to sell my house, then all right, let's talk about it. But you got to understand when you come in with a home to sell contingency, that's weakening the strength of your offer. So you got to consider what are you going to do to strengthen that offer, and that usually comes down to like the price. So it really, yeah, you got to put in an offer, and it all depends on everything else. Like, are you cash? Are you doing a mortgage? Are you asking the seller for like contingent incentives, or like are you asking the seller to buy down the rate? I think you got to look at the total offer and negotiate that and see if that makes sense.
But I do think that they're more willing to negotiate now than they have been before. So if that, I wouldn't have that be the reason to stop you from looking at houses. So
right. Me personally, though, I feel like in this market, there's so many options. And I think if you're serious about selling, I would just put your house on the market because most likely your house is not going to sell like in a weekend.
assuming you're like local, right? This is assuming
Yeah.
local business, right?
Yeah, I mean Babcock Ranch right now, average days on market is 89 days. So that means it's taking most people 3 months to even get an offer and a contract that they like.
Can I ask you, John, because I don't know these statistics, but isn't that typical, like over the years, around 60 to 90 days to sell a house?
I'd say with like long-term averages, I mean, I think we're getting back to like what more normal real estate looks like, right?
Right.
So
I don't want you to think we're painting like doom and gloom because 90 days isn't the end of the world especially if you're priced right. It's going to go a little bit better than that, but
yeah, I just think it's your house most likely is not going to sell so fast. So like, why put that extra? I think if you have your house sold, there's strategies to mitigate this, right? If you want to buy a house and you want to move to an area, I mean, yeah, I'd go start looking at houses, start previewing, and I would like narrow down to where you want to live, and then I would go put my house on the market, and when I finally get an offer I like, I would say, hey, I need 60 days to close. And the reason I would do that is so you have enough time to go and look for houses that are available. I mean, there's so much available right now. That's why I think it makes more sense to get your house sold and under contract before you go. Because then when you go to another house, I know in this market, if you go to a resale and say, hey, I want a home to sell contingency, just as a backup, my house is already under contract. Like that's going to be a non-issue. But it could be an issue if you still haven't even listed your home or it's sitting on the market. And if it is like, we're probably going to give you like 60 days max. We're not going to just give you indefinite amounts of time to sell your house because then you're tying up the listing. And, there's other ways to mitigate that, like kick out clauses. And the problem with that, though, is like the second you accept an offer, I've got to mark my house pending on the MLS. And usually once you mark it pending, like people stop looking. Mm-hmm. They don't want to come look at your house, right?
Of course.
So it's very dependent on the seller scenario. And
I just want to add that if you are financing, I just want to say that before you begin John's steps, which I completely agree with, come talk to me because sometimes you might be able to, we might have a way for you to buy that house before selling your house. Some people want that. Some people don't want that. So we would have to go over your situation and your finances. But there are ways where we could maybe even use the house you have. So learning about you and your specific goals might help better answer this question in a sense. But for sure, find out your options. I always feel like there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and just find out what we can do, and then come up with a plan, so that are you going to list your house right away? Or is there a really good reason why you want to find a house and make it contingent? Maybe there is, and we don't know what it is. And we can work around that sometimes. So.
There's other options too, like maybe you do find that perfect home you want. Maybe you need like a bridge loan. You don't want to give up that perfect house that just came on market.
It literally happened to me. Bill had a client and wonderful people, and they found this one special house they fell in love with in Babcock. They live in Babcock. And I was like, we're going to make this happen. We're going to make it happen. They want it. Let's make it happen. And so it did. So those are the types of things. Just talk to us. I think overall, it's good advice to sell your house, put it up on the market. But if you have specific needs that you feel like your situation's different, reach out.
Right.
And not only that, but with John, for example, he's got several listings, right? Maybe one of his sellers is more willing to do X, Y, or Z. And what I mean by X, Y, or Z is like, things that could come back now, maybe a seller's second mortgage. If you're having a hard time with your down payment, somebody tells you need 10% down, you really don't have that. Maybe you have 5% and the seller can hold a 5% second mortgage. These are all different things. So if you have someone, if you have a property and you're having or a property that you want to buy specific, definitely talk to us. Or if you don't think you can get a mortgage because you don't have closing costs or whatever the deal may be, sellers are a lot more willing to talk about stuff. And John would know his sellers that are more willing to negotiate either buying down your rate or giving you even better deal. So sometimes it's hard to advertise both, right? Because you never know which way somebody would like. So just reach out.
All right, we got maybe one more question. First of all, I got to say hi to Paul from the Bronx. We've been chatting, and he might buy a house here in Babcock one day. So what's up, Paul? But we got Alina. She's asking, do you think prices in Babcock Ranch will go down for new construction in 2025? She's saying the builders seem to have a schedule to raise prices, but the incentives stay the same amount. And yes, builders, one thing you can be assured of, builders are always going to try and hike the prices up, like over time throughout a neighborhood. Like they do that. They plan to do that. But the answer is it really depends on the builder and the neighborhood, honestly, and the market. There's a lot of like factors that go into this. So like one example is, a big builder like Pulte, you might get better prices from one week to the next because maybe they're looking at their sales throughout the whole area, right? So if their sales in the area are poor, like you might get a better price one week, but you might go back to, this happens to me when I go with clients. It drives me nuts. I'll go back the next week with a different client and I can't get the same discount the next week. And I'm like, well, what happened? Well, all of our other communities like hit their sales quotas. So we're looking good this week. Like builders are looking at stuff day by day, week by week. Another good thing to understand is that, and I actually had this ready to go for the presentation. So let me share my screen here. This is from here we go. So this is from the National Association of Home Builders, right? Home prices, the cost of constructing homes is still going up. So if you look from 2022 to 2024,
that's crazy.
The cost to construct went up 3.6%, even though the demand, and you can see though, where did demand make a difference? the prices of lots actually dropped over that time. So builders were paying less for the land. That's really, I think, a big indicator of showing demand. But construction costs still went up. So
Oh,
that's
that's
another factor for when you're looking at like new construction is like, yeah, the prices still are still going up and up. And I know the National Association of Home Builders, they just wrote our new president, Mr. Trump, a letter expressing their concerns about tariffs against this country and that country because a lot of our building materials come from, a lot of them come from Mexico. But we're getting building materials all from around the country. And going back to like what we talked about earlier, we have an affordability issue of housing in America. We don't need homes costing more money for the builders because that's just going to be passed on to the consumers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously inflation would make rates go up.
Yeah.
So
I think I think you can always find these pockets of opportunity when you're looking at the builders, and of course you're always going to get the best deals on those inventory homes that have been sitting on the market. Builders hate having houses sit. The longer they sit, the more and more they drop the price. So that's something to consider too. Like you go to a place like Terrawalk, you buy a move-in ready home. Let's say you buy a move-in ready Mystique. I guarantee you it's going to cost way more money to build that Mystique from dirt. They're not going to give you anywhere near the price breaks you will get if you buy that quick move-in home.
sure. Yeah.
So, same with Toll Brothers and William Ryan. Those are our three semi-customizable home builders. You're going to get the best deal from any of those people with the quick move-in homes, and they're really the only three home builders where you can still go in and say, hey, I want that lot. I want this model. Here's what options I want. Every other home builder is really just, they're just specking out the entire neighborhoods and building. So.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions? I can't see the chat, just so you know. I'm not ignoring you guys.
No, that's
right.
it. So I know, I think we beat this.
It's a long episode. It's like a movie.
I know. And we've had about 30 people with us the entire time. So for all those who did tune in, we appreciate we appreciate that. Susan, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
They can give us a call. You can reach us at my phone number is 239-464-7609. You can also go to theeganteam.com. And we're here for you. You can message us. You can tag John, anything.
Yeah. And anybody who wants help with Babcock Ranch real estate, I'm pretty easy to find. But if you're looking to buy like new construction, you can go to tourbabcockranch.com, or if you want to just have a conference call to discuss, opportunities in Babcock, whether it's resale or new construction, you can go to talkbabcockranch.com and just schedule a video call. Someone from my team will meet with you, or just give my office line a call, 941-216-6494.
Would you put our numbers down in there? Because I can't chat. So,
in
case, so they don't have to rewind.
239-464-7609. That's your number?
Yep. Would you memorize that?
Well, I think I know your number off the top of my head.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and looking forward to the next one. Are we going to do this more often, John?
I think we got to start doing it at least quarterly, or maybe more. Maybe we could come up with something different to talk about each month, or go back to monthly. And
yeah, sounds like a plan. Well, we'll hear what you say. If you want us back, let us know.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks.
Have a good one, guys.